knowledge and our circle of opportunities. Recently, my son and my wife were in a supermarket at the checkout counter, and he was carrying one of our Yorkies. We have 3 Yorkies. And the cashier, she said she wasn't going to ring them up. She wasn't going to ring up their merchandise because the store had a no-dog policy. Now, my son was holding the dog. The manager came over. And the manager, he was actually empathetic, but it was the rule of the store. So my son stepped out of the store with the dog. Now, here's the thing. As he was telling me the story, he never once was upset about the fact that he thought this incident was based on race. He just thought the woman was a jerk. That's how I want all black children to believe and have the mindset of. That's the mindset all Americans should have. I want these kernels of anger that are inside of people not to grow. I want them to be snuffed out before they become nuclear power plants. Because when it's all said and done, this anger does more destruction to our communities than anything any outside group of people ever could do. So what I'm saying is that it's time for politicians and self-appointed guardian angels to stop telling us that other Americans don't like us. It's time for politicians to stop telling us that we're victims. More than anything else, though, it's time for us to stop listening to those politicians and self-appointed guardians. You cannot accept the narrative of victimhood and at the same time inspire your children. You cannot accept the narrative that someone doesn't like you and that is the reason, not your own shortcomings, that's holding you back. You cannot do it. Please be wary of those eager to point out your enemies and your plight as they pose as your friend or savior. Because the fact is, they're only fanning the flames of anger and discontent. They want you to feel like victims, right? But you're not a victim, and you know why? Because you're an American. And you know, of course, racism exists. So does cronyism, nepotism, elitism, and all kinds of favoritisms. But here's the real deal, people. America isn't the greatest country in the world because it's perfect. America is the greatest country in the world because it wants to be perfect. America wants to do the right thing. Think about this for a moment. How we evolved so swiftly from an upstart nation of 13 colonies that thumbed its nose at a king when regular people became so upset they fought back. The spark for the American Revolution came during the Boston Massacre. When Crispus Attucks, he was the first one to die. An escaped slave, Attucks' death marked the beginning of this great nation. A nation whose mind-boggling evolution could have only happened through opportunities afforded regular people of all nationalities and races. You know, we all, I think now, have been trying to learn more and more about history. One thing a lot of people don't know is about all the towns that sprung up, all the black towns that sprung up after slavery. In fact, there were 30 black towns in Oklahoma alone right after slavery. These towns had schools, they had Main Street with shops, they even had power plants. Now, if anyone could wallow in victimhood, it would have been an ex-slave, right? But there were no newspapers, there were no TV channels, there were no civil rights organizations telling them that it couldn't be done. They just went out and did it. So America has evolved. America elected a black president when 3 years ago, I guarantee you less than 1% of black people thought it would happen in their lifetime. But while the nation has grown, it continues to be pulled back. Parts of the country continue to deliberately be pulled back. Now recently, Bob Johnson, he's the founder of BET, he published a report titled Wealth Gap Tsunami. and it detailed the dire economic situation of black people in America. 25% of black people and black families have no assets. Black families have a median net worth of $11,800 versus $118,000 for a black family. The average black person made 55 cents for each dollar that the average white man made or white person made in 1968, and 57 cents for the average dollar a white person made in 2001. Mr. Johnson blames this situation primarily on a history of institutionalized racial and economic discrimination. I don't know about you, but it seems like it's time to start following a different game plan. You know, I'm in the stock market, and I tell people all the time, if I bought a stock in 1960 at $10 and now it was $11, I might sell that stock. If my fortunes haven't changed that much, I might try something different. Yeah, racism plays a role, but the bigger role has been that blacks have been dissuaded from truly embracing the American dream. The bigger problem has been following a logic of victimhood that has made us overlook crises of like dropouts, single-parent homes, mostly women, black-on-black genocide. I can tell you something, we could definitely have assets if we don't buy $150 sneakers. If we bought $30 sneakers and took the other $120 and bought Nike stock, we start to build some assets. We could definitely build assets if we skipped the $600 iPhone and bought a $30 cell phone and bought $570 worth of Apple stock instead. We can definitely start making more money if we stop voting for politicians that promise us higher minimum wage. Now, how stupid is that? I don't know if you guys remember the debates when Kerry